Hello and welcome to a sort of special show, really. But we're going back through time to look back at all the storms from the past. And I am joined tonight by David from Australia and Adam from the Caymans, and Nathan's in the background.
I'm here.
I don't know whether he'll be. Oh, he's there. There he is. We'll be speaking about. Let's how many storms have we got here? Oh, quite a bit. We'll be starting off with whatever we want to start off with. I think we'll start off with an Atlantic hurricane. We'll start off with Hurricane Ivan of 2004. We've actually got a person here who survived Hurricane Ivan and actually witnessed him, and that's Adam. He's in the Cayman Islands. Adam, what are you going to say?
Ivan, big baddie. Ivan the Terrible. That's what we nicknamed him.
Yes, that's what the Cayman Islands nicknamed Hurricane Ivan after. Was it before or after Ivan hit the Cayman Islands?
Oh, after. We didn't realize how bad it was until it had left us and was heading through the Yucatan Channel. We came out and realized we were screwed.
Well, that's the other term is one of the islands of, if I am correct though, Adam, one of the islands of Grand Cayman actually was flooded, if I'm correct by saying that.
Yes, there was a point where CNN had correctly termed Cayman is no longer on satellite. Which was technically true, considering the fact that Cayman was underwater from all the storm surge and flooding that we've received.
And if the screen share is... Sorry, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
If the screen share is working, there should be a picture which you should be seeing of the beast himself, Hurricane Ivan. This is him just shy of peak intensity. You can see from the satellite, he's an absolute monster. He's certainly playing the part for Cat 5. I mean, look at how well defined the eye is there. Nice spiral bands down at the bottom. But this is no wonder he got the term Ivan the Terrible, because he peaked at 165 miles per hour. No house he's really going to survive it, and it was not really necessarily his winds that were the problem, it was his flooding. As we'll find out in the Gulf Coast. As a Category 4, I think he made landfall as. I am not 100% on that one yet. Hurricane Ivan was definitely a very violent hurricane, achieving Category 5, if I am correct by this, Adam, do correct me if I am wrong, 3 times.
That is correct.
Yes, there it is. 3 times achieving Category 5 status and not making landfall as a Category 4. You can see he's lived a fair bit of life there. Achieving Category 5 3 times. Unfortunately, obviously passing over Cayman as a Cat 4 or Cat 5. Or both.
Cat 5.
Cat 5.
Well, it entered the Cayman area as a Cat 4. And exited as a Cat 5, and when it became its Cat 5 on its way out, we did happen to get winds of peaking up to 200. But of course, as soon as that happened, we lost connection with the wind gauges because they were all knocked over, and we lost total communication with the outside world.
So that shows you how violent a Category 5 hurricane like Ivan is. And you can also see there when he made landfall, as I think there's a Category 2, you can see his track, and he comes back for more and becoming a tropical storm and making landfall not in the same area, but near the same area as well. I think, Ivan's the first hurricane that's done that. Not in Atlantic history, but probably not the last that will do it. There's probably has been more. I'll just look that up a minute, see if it's happened again. For yourself there, I know Ivan is, in some of my view, was an actual very violent hurricane. I wouldn't have wanted to imagine what it's like, but from people's eyewitness accounts and all that. It was a pretty bad hurricane. Even, but this goes to leave a message out to everyone: do not underestimate Cat 5s.
I just want to show everyone for a brief moment here on the images from the International Space Station. You guys won't be able to see it on the Skype, but people watching right now can see one of the images from the International Space Station, and it looks quite remarkable. There are many others like that as well. The ISS flew directly over pretty much the storm's eye. If you guys are looking at the stream coincidentally right now, you'll be able to see it for yourselves, but a smashing image that is there. Just reminded of it when I saw the one of the other images on the Wikipedia article there, but that's what Ivan looked like from space, not far away from the Earth. How high up is that space station? I can't remember now.
It shows you Ivan, definitely a hurricane that definitely deserves his title as a Category 5. Also, I just found his air pressure 910 millibars and 165 miles per hour. Not the only Atlantic Cat 5 of that year. There was also his brother, Hurricane Dean, for that year as well. Not Hurricane Dean. I've got my years mixed up. There's a blooper. There's a blooper. Nathan, put that on the blooper reel. I have made it onto the bloopers. I have made that onto the bloopers. Never mind. Also, I don't know whether anyone else has anything to add about Ivan just before.
I actually have a photo that was also shown to the Associated Press. I'm just posting it on the Facebook room, on the Skype room. Hopefully that could be screen shared. If anyone could please kindly.
I don't know whether David wants to take that duty or not.
Yeah. So that picture was taken by emergency crews doing reconnaissance on Grand Cayman. This is around the Georgetown area, and this was taken after Ivan had left, and after some of the storm surge have subsided, and you could really see the how the island was just completely wiped over from Ivan. And yeah, I mean that big large building right there is what's currently called the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, and all the windows and all of that completely blown out. It's just a skeletal structure of that building left, and that was practically how most of the buildings in Cayman was. It was either skeletal structures or non-existent. There was buildings that literally lifted from foundation and gone to the other side of the island. Even boats that were in safe harbor ended up way on the other side of the island from storm surge. That's just amazing. Not only did we have the storm surge and rain flooding, but we've also had recorded 7 tornadoes in Ivan as well. So that definitely screwed us up badly.
So there you go. That's what's also associated with hurricanes. It's not just necessarily it's the wind and the rain and the storm surge. There's also tornadoes as well. So do take into consideration if you do get hit by a hurricane, cyclone, or typhoon, whatever tropical cyclone it is, there is always going to be tornadoes in it. Just because, just don't think that there's never going to be a tornado in a tropical cyclone. There is very likely to be multiple tornadoes in a tropical cyclone, no matter how strong it is, whether it be, tropical depression or even a tropical storm. There will be tornadoes located somewhere in the storm. I don't know where they're located, probably about outer bands or something, but there are tornadoes associated with the system. I don't know whether anyone else is. There's the screen share on David's screen, International Space Station.
What do you think of that one?
Yeah, that's a beauty. Ivan is an absolute
That is a beauty.
Definitely a hurricane for the storm
do,
trackers, anyway.
yeah, I do believe though that when the ISS was taking pictures, was I think it was over the time that it was passing Cayman. I think there at one point they were able to see the southwest part of Grand Cayman in the eye at one point. So
Shows you how clear Ivan's eye was to see it from from the naked eye from the satellite on the International Space Station. I could just imagine being on the International Space Station and flying over this monster and looking down into his eye and seeing Grand Cayman right in the middle of it. I mean, that would be actually quite a chilling sight, looking down into the beast of a monster. Well, looking right down into the, how could we say, the heart of a monster, or looking into the eye of an absolute, well, whatever you want to call Ivan.
The eye of a devil.
You could call him that, but that's not the only hurricane or tropical cyclone which made history, because it's not just Ivan we're going to be speaking about here. We're also going to be speaking on about the likes of, let's just go through the names here, Typhoon Haiyan, Hurricane Andrew, and also one tropical storm, a tropical storm from last year, in fact, Tropical Storm Coleman in the North Indian of last year, which caused 170 deaths. Also, just to bring up warning awareness for that area as well. Not just that, that's not just it as well. We've got Hurricane Wilma, and from last year, very bad cyclone, Cyclone Pam, and also we have the record-breaking Cyclone Winston, and the mega hurricane, or the hurricane from hell, Hurricane Patricia, and then we've got Hurricane Alan and Hurricane Paloma in the Atlantic. So we'll quickly move on. We'll go on to where do you want to go next? Haiyan or Andrew, or which other ones?
Yeah, let's go Haiyan.
Let's do Super Typhoon Haiyan occurred in 2013, which is a year nobody from the Philippines or anyone else will forget. I think Carl has joined us. I don't know whether Carl can speak or not.
Yeah.
Carl, what do you think about Super Typhoon Haiyan? Do you think that it was obviously the key debate is, was it stronger than 195 miles per hour?
Well,
Force 13's reanalysis thinks so.
Yes, that's another thing that's interesting as well.
No,
Definitely
stronger than 195 miles per hour, but the winds, the anemometers usually break during those speeds, and we can really say for sure if it really did. I personally think it did, but it won't go any more higher, at least a lot, probably around 200 or 205, and it came pretty close though.
Yes, that's not the only typhoon that could do that. Obviously, another typhoon of last year, Typhoon Pseudolor, did that to Saipan, breaking the wind measurement there with winds of only 90 miles an hour. That's, yes, it's a pretty strong, pretty strong winds, but yes, it's Category 1, but we don't know at that point how strong the sustained winds when the rest of the storm actually got there. But apparently the landfall was upgraded to 145 or something, upgraded to a Category 4 anyway. But 2013, back to Haiyan. Haiyan obviously being the storm that caused the biggest world movement in humanitarian aid. To be honest, I don't know anyone from the Philippines. I don't know whether you'd like to describe describe the hot typhoon as a typhoon from hell. I certainly would say it would have been, and certainly say it was. Cyclone that no one was expecting.
Typhoon Haiyan was definitely the typhoon from hell. It was one of the very few mega storms that ever to make landfall at a massive 195 miles an hour. And what makes it the perfect disaster is not only you get a strong storm, you get people who absolutely no idea what's gonna hit them.
Mm.
It's basically a fish in a barrel. If there's was ever a double whammy by a single landfall itself, it's definitely Haiyan.
Yeah,
And it's one of the main reasons
and this
that
is a
Haiyan was
this
the
is an
most
image.
iconic.
Yeah, sorry, Carl.
It-
Go ahead, go finish.
Yeah, Haiyan. What makes Haiyan very high and the most notable, especially it's apparent in the Force 13 Hurricane Week 2015, is because very rarely do you get a storm so strong, cause so much damage in one given time. I mean,
Mm.
you have typhoons like Tip, who really didn't affect any land at all. Patricia and likes of Nancy and Vera. Well, Vera was one, but if you're gonna get a storm that strong, that's gonna affect a lot of people. It's just basically multiplied its notability, and that's what makes Haiyan very infamous, especially for us.
Well, on the screen share that should be working, hopefully.
Yeah.
This is an image of Typhoon Haiyan at its monstrous peak of 195 miles an hour. You can just see it. It is a perfect donut. I'll just move the script window out of the way. There's the perfect donut. Look at that eye. It's like a black hole. And
Yes, it is a perfect circle.
and you could just imagine the days leading up, possibly the last few hours of this typhoon, making a beeline right for the Philippines. No way it was going to miss. Whether it went straight up, or it was definitely going to clip some of the Philippine islands of the Visayas, or it could have maybe done a swerve down south, which was highly unlikely at that time. But the unfortunate case was it peaked right at landfall and made multiple landfalls as a Category 5, causing mass amount of damage. Well, in fact, carnage, should I say. I don't know whether that's a safe word to use, Carl, but you might agree with me on that one, that Haiyan did cause carnage in the Philippines.
Carnage.
But,
Especially in storm surge.
yes, and the worst thing was, I think, the thing that really could have been avoided, but yes, the tropical cyclone education in the Philippines was, I don't know whether you agree with me, wasn't good.
Yeah.
I know there's probably other words that could describe it.
I have a question, actually.
Go ahead, Nathan.
For Carl. Did you know anyone who was in the area where Haiyan was at the time?
You mean storm chasers, like that stuff like that?
Anyone at all who you knew personally, or I don't know, or
Well,
anyone who was closer to the storm than you were over in Manila?
Well, I have some of my friends are storm chasers, and they did film Haiyan, such as Jim Eds or Josh Morgerman, and they have shared with me some of their videos of Haiyan itself.
There you go. The video from Jim Eds is actually quite a good video. He's quite a good storm chaser. He's been in multiple hurricanes, like Irene and all that. But Haiyan's his most challenging one to get into, but he managed to get into there. Also, the question is, as although Nathan's been busy in the past few days doing post-season analysis on typhoons in the West Pacific, and obviously upgrading Haiyan to 200 and what was it, 200 miles an hour?
Yeah. It was
200 miles an hour
analysed to be
and sub 900.
879.
879 millibars. To
And
be honest, on that,
it's feasible it could have been stronger than that. I'd hesitate to say
Yeah.
that is quite conservative.
it could have been at least 210, 215. It could have been, well, let's say NHC overkill like Patricia, but we're going to be covering Patricia later on.
Yeah, I'll have a lot
But
to
if
say
we don't
about
get
that.
time, we'll cover. Yes, we'll have a lot to say about that one. But I don't know who else has anything to add about Haiyan before we move on, or whether viewers have any questions or not, Nathan.
Well, I
just
want to add stuff about
go ahead.
Haiyan. At least the last one. I'd say that the greatest factor of the mass fatalities of Haiyan again is the storm surge.
Mm.
I want to add something about that. What makes this storm surge, very, very strange? Not strange, but more of a different case than any
Yeah.
other storms.
Because wasn't
If
the storm
you-
surge wave, well, storm surge, or one of the waves, in fact, and or maybe just after Haiyan passed, there was rumors going about what was left of the Visayas. There was rumors going about that the locals were actually planning, and had actually ran for it, saying that there was a tsunami coming. That
Well,
never happened,
yes.
thankfully. I don't
I
know.
would understand. I would understand if it looks like a tsunami because it did look like a tsunami when it came on shore. If you
Well, they were
you
saying
see
that
the
after
video,
Haiyan, though. They were saying it
Uh,
after Haiyan.
well, probably it's just fear mongering and
Probably.
probably confusion as well. But no, but yeah, but I mean, the storm surge itself was comparable to a tsunami because if you watch the video of storm surge from Haiyan, where just a massive wall of water. That is not a normal storm surge.
And there's
Storm surge
houses,
usually goes
and the housing
slowly.
structure, in the Visayas, the housing structure there, it's not the best. There's
it's not
multiple
gonna
places
withstand.
like, yes, no. In fact, it doesn't matter how well built your house is. It's not going to survive it. I'm sorry, it's not going to survive it. Your house isn't even going to survive possibly even 125 miles an hour winds, let alone 195, 200 miles an hour plus. That's like saying my house could survive 257 miles an hour. Well, 300 miles an hour. There you go, rough winds. No, you'd be lying if your house could do that.
Have you tracked Haiyan yourself during 2013?
Well, I didn't track it. I wasn't tracking at that point, but I seen the satellite images on the news after she slammed into the Philippines. I mean, at that moment, I knew that she was a very, very powerful storm. In fact, there was that, feeling, and that feeling in the stomach. It's like, God, there's something bad's happened. Something really bad has happened. The main point of impact happened. I happened to be at school when the landfall taken place, which was rather unfortunate. I was then in a class and someone came in saying, Haiyan, a typhoon named Haiyan has made landfall in the Philippines. It's like, God. Then they said it happens to be the strongest tropical cyclone ever to have hit land. It's like, God, how strong is this thing? And they said, well, its winds near 200 miles an hour. That's where my jaw hit the floor. Obviously,
Craig, I want to add
Sorry.
something as well. If there is anyone who's actually tracked Haiyan, there is something weird about Haiyan, and when I mean weird, something that I only noticed in this storm, not any other storm. Haiyan, when approaching to the to Leyte area, has a movement speed of 38 kilometers per hour. That's very fast. I have never seen a tropical cyclone move that fast. And
well, that's close to like something what Wilma did, if you think about it, really. And we could be covering her either tonight or on tonight's show or maybe next week. Next week's show. Probably like to be next week. But Haiyan. Here's another thing that I learned about Haiyan. Haiyan had two outflows from her eye, which is obviously to the JTWC, as they said in the documentary about her, was
dual channel outflow.
Yes, was meaning that she was going to be a very big storm. She was going to be big. They didn't know how big, but she was going to be a very massive storm. And unfortunately, it happened to slam right into the Philippines directly at 195 miles an hour. Possibly even stronger, we don't know. But I don't know. Before we move on to the next storm,
Yeah, I was
if
just going to
anyone's got-
say, Haiyan, one thing that is of note in terms of its forward speed, if Typhoon Rita back in 1978 was a little bit further south, that's almost a mirror image of Haiyan, only it was a bit further north and weakened just a little bit before landfall in the Philippines in Luzon as a Cat 4. Could have been a Haiyan if it was further south. But it was comparable in forward motion, at least up until the last day before landfall. Anyway, there we are.
All right, Nathan and Craig. The forward momentum of Haiyan actually, in my opinion, enhanced the storm surge. That is why it looked like a tsunami. Usually, you don't get to see stuff like that. And Rita was moving, was curved perpendicularly before landfall. Haiyan was definitely, one hit direction with all those forward momentum. Yeah, because
Now,
storm can also be enhanced
Haiyan
momentum.
is a storm that will live in our minds forever. There's one storm now that we're going to move on to that is going to live in my mind forever, and possibly until I'm dare I say it, thinking a bit ahead of myself here, till I'm in my retirement age. Way into that age when I'm probably at a care home at this point in time. And that's the sound of Michael Scott, and that's not the storm I'm on about. I am on about Cyclone Pam, a devastating cyclone which desecrated the Vanuatu Chain Islands 2015. On this day, in fact, in March, Pam would have actually been getting... Yes. Pam would have been... Well, we'd already been named... she'd have been just becoming a tropical, actually becoming a cyclone at this point in time, undergoing rapid intensification. This was my first storm that I ever raised money. Yes, Nathan.
In fact, would you mind us going to a quick break before we go on to Pam?
Yes, let's do. After the break, we're just going to take a short break just before we start blabbering about Pam. Blabbering on about, and before we get to Overkill Patricia. And maybe the record Cyclone Winston. But we'll be back in about 2 minutes or so.
Yeah, we'll be about 3 minutes. This is Force 13 Live and Craig's Cyclone History Show. Back soon. watching Force 13's live streaming service.
Welcome back to Cyclone History with myself, Craig, Lee, David, Adam, and, well, not just Nathan, Carl as well, who's in the Philippines, David in Australia, and my fellow countrymen from Scotland, Lee, and another fellow Scotsman who's down in the Cayman Islands, Adam. We're currently going to start
and someone of slight
Cyclone.
Scottish heritage, me.
Well, you're not well. All right then, half Scottish then.
I don't think it's even half.
No, I
Yeah,
think it's about 0.5%.
Quarter.
I
Anyway.
don't think we could have the four Scottish Musketeers now, can we?
Oh God, no.
Won't be me anyway.
Anyway, we're just gonna start talking about infamous Cyclone Pam, my third Category 5 ever since I started storm tracking. Not my worst anymore. A absolute monster, as I describe her. Yet alone from its coloured imagery and visible, she was a beautiful cyclone. But unfortunately, she did the wrong thing. She hit land. But there's nothing that you can really describe Pam about. She 165 miles per hour and 896 millibars, which to me 896 to 165 for me doesn't add up really. I can definitely see where people were coming from for worst case scenario for Pam, saying what was Devon's estimate? Nathan, 180 miles an hour plus.
Sorry, which storm we're talking about here?
Cyclone Pam.
Well, that's what he says. I disagree.
What is your estimate? What would your estimate be?
I don't think it was 180. I mean, initially I wasn't convinced it was even any stronger than what they said it was, but having reviewed it, I think 165 is probably fair.
Okay. I don't think air pressure would be below 900 millibars. Maybe. Just maybe, but still we can't argue because there's one major problem. They don't have planes.
But if you're going to put an estimate, at least 914, something like that.
Yeah, it's like Winston. I'd say Winston was sadly below 900 millibars, maybe even more intense than Zoe. But that's other people's discussions. That's what my point of view was. Because with one storm, you'll be astonished at how many people have their different views on cyclones and all that. But obviously, Pam was my first storm that I raised money for. It was my idea, but the first storm that I properly raised money for was Haiyan. That wasn't my idea, but thankfully the school had kind heart to do that. Pam, after seeing the pictures from Port Vila, 95% of the infrastructure was leveled. But this is where your comparisons between 160 and 200 miles an hour plus 160 will do the exact same damage as 200 miles an hour. Your house is not going to survive it, especially houses that were on Port Vila that day. There was a hotel on the island. The front of it looked like it had been put through a blender. It had been ripped to shreds. When there's the pictures there and from Port Vila and David's screen share there, you can see the debris and the flooding. It was a 52-foot storm surge that swamped the islands. You can just imagine that bearing down at you. I can still remember the date, 13th of March, Friday night at 9 UTC. That's the exact date and time she made landfall at. And unfortunately, my reaction was when I seen her become the 5, my hands were on my head. I couldn't believe what I was tracking. I was tracking an absolute monster, tracking right for land. And for some strange reason, every move she made, unfortunately, I somehow managed to get it right. Someone sneezing in the background. She was a devastating cyclone. That says a lot. What could you say? 165 miles an hour, ripping through a poor country island chain, which isn't doing so well government-wise.
Craig,
Yes, Carl.
two things that make Pam very, very sad. A sad event is that mostly because it's very unlucky. The Vanuatu has basically infrastructure-wise probably very low standard, almost low or even lower as
Possibly
Bangladesh.
similar to the Philippines.
Yeah, possibly. And basically, you have a Category 5 monster that is really tearing down a town, people who can't really fight back because infrastructure-wise, they have basically sticks and stones. Secondly, is that for a Category 5 in the middle of the ocean to strike an island is like hitting a needle in a haystack. It's very rare and it's very unlucky that Vanuatu has to endure this kind of monster, especially their infrastructure not being even able to withstand anything. You can only imagine it must be horrific. It's gonna fully destroy your infrastructure couldn't even stand Category 2, I believe.
No, they probably couldn't. They probably couldn't even withstand 70 severe tropical storm status. And I know David, who was actually quite close to Pam as well, hadn't the steering ridges not been strong enough. This is what led to Pam slamming into Vanuatu. Hadn't the steering ridges been strong enough, David would have been getting a direct hit from Cyclone Pam, possibly still at peak intensity. That's the worst of it. I don't know whether David would also like to comment on that, but I'd be quite happy for him to do so.
Well, my position on Pam, a very powerful system, and if it wasn't for this blocking mechanism, probably around New Caledonia, she would have made a track towards my location, which is southeast Queensland. So if it wasn't for the barrier, we would have felt her fury, but it didn't turn out that way. But
yeah,
another powerful system.
Oh yeah, and then also coming after that, her brother Winston, sadly making a landfall, 20 miles per hour stronger than Pam, and becoming the strongest cyclone in the South Pacific by wind speed, but possibly even by air pressure as well. That Winston as well, just not just alone like Pam and Zoe, but there's always something that tries to kickstart it. Yes, Pam was high SSTs and very low wind shear, whereas Winston was low wind shear and very high sea surface temperatures, and also everything went his way. We're going to be covering him also next as well. But it doesn't matter where you are in the world, whether you're in the UK, France, Germany. We could probably sit up here and say that we won't get hit by tropical cyclone.
And that was Craig being called away, it seems.
Yes, hang on a minute. Talk amongst yourselves about Pam, because I'd actually like to get comments on it.
Well, it was. I was just showing some photos on the side there. There's one of them as the storm was at its closest approach to one of those islands that were annotated before. It passed through as a very strong cyclone, as Craig was saying, and devastated the islands of Vanuatu, and makes you wonder when we'll see something like that happen again in the future, because it's a bit of an air of inevitability about that, though hopefully not for Vanuatu. But you're sort of wondering, on the Pacific Islands after Fiji this year, who's it going to be next year, don't you, in a way? Well,
Samoa.
Well, Samoa had their own problems with Evan back in 2012, didn't it? But there we are.
Yeah.
Which storm will we be moving on to next, guys? What do you think?
Want Patricia or that?
Well, it's Craig's decision, and he's back.
Yes. Right. Well, whilst we're down in the Southern Hemisphere, we'll cover Winston. We'll cover Cyclone Winston. There is so much you could say about Winston here. You could literally, we cannot even describe. Well, we can't even know where to start. Well, Winston basically started off as every other tropical cyclone, starting in between Vanuatu and Fiji. But then he started taking a very strange turn. Due to unfavorable conditions, he did an IO replacement, began to weaken. We thought, well, he was done for. Models were not saying that. They were saying he was going to blow back up, especially the HWRF. And by God were they right. And unfortunately, they predicted worst case scenario. Had him curving back up and hitting Fiji directly, and unfortunately they got it right. And that's what happened to just happened to happen, really. And unfortunately, it had to be Category 5. And then, as he did that, he weakened right down to a tropical storm. He thought he was done. It even looked like he was going to be dissipated by next advisory. But then, obviously, cloud tops and jet stream. Well, the jet stream decided to let him go. Then he began to recover. He began to rapidly deepen in convection, and off he went on a rampage. And then, unfortunately, first Cat 5, and then the first humanitarian aid of 2016. And the main question is, what other surprises has 2016 got up its sleeve for us? Obviously, El Nino is rapidly weakening, so La Nina looks to be on the cards, as NOAA is warning that themselves.
Yes, I can support you there. Okay.
8 fellow Scotsmen's doing that as well, so there you go. And also there's that many factors. You lose sight on where the El Nino and that's going to go. But Winston's also an annular cyclone. I think a lot of people would support that, especially Jesper, who isn't here at the minute. David, I don't know whether you'd agree with whether that Winston himself was an annular cyclone.
Not sure, Craig.
Well,
Other things than that one.
Had annular characteristics. I don't think it was ever completely annular, but it had characteristics, and it almost got there, I think.
I'd say it was annular, in my opinion. I'd say it was annular. It was the way he was going. I mean, most of the cyclones, like Eula, Victor, not Victor, Katrina, Victor, Cindy. Nathan, don't go there.
No.
They were, if you've not noticed, even the South Indian ones, like Uriah and Quarantine, a little bit of Quarantine as well, or Quarantine, I don't know how you pronounce it. So the Central Pacific and oh god.
We have had ridiculous amounts of quiet in the Southwest Indian this year, though.
That is true. The biggest amount of spark we've had this year has to be Uriah, being the strongest so far, winds of 145 miles per hour. Also, sort of disguising the fact that Winston was going to blow up, making us take all attention off of Winston and go right to her. but she lost the plot and died out. We all thought she was going to be the 5, but unfortunately we got the opposite. It had to be Winston. Knowing our luck.
Craig?
Yes, Carl.
I remember you said something back that tropical cyclones are like living human beings.
They are. That's a good point.
If you give them any small opportunities, they will do whatever. They'll do anything just to get power. If you can remember, Eula, for example, before dying out, she managed to come up to Category 4. Winston becoming unbelievably Category 5, and if you can remember, Haiyan's dual channel outflow, it just goes to show that
there's
these
a good
an opportunity and they
of,
will do anything.
Sorry, Carl, about interrupting you there, Carl, but there's a good pictures of what David's showing there, the before and afters. Look at the trail of devastation that Winston has left behind there. You can see lush tropical green, and then
look at the trees. It's
dead
the
and
trees
brown.
are gone. It's
Look at that.
The foliage.
The foliage is gone. The vegetation's been completely destroyed. Plus the fact, look at that. There's our foundations. But plus the fact, yes, there's storm surge is going to be a factor to that, not just wind. But I mean, seriously, 185 miles an hour. Literally, no. Well, wait, JTWC disagree with me. They say, well, disagree with a lot of people. They said 180 miles an hour. They revised their advisory down. But still, 185 and 180.
Yeah, just a slight bit of off-topic information here, but I just want to point out that the Southwest Indian Ocean, digging through the archives, it's been the quietest season up to this current date in 17 years.
So there you go, a record low South Indian, and I believe
in 17 years.
Part two.
Just
Michael Scott has joined us.
Could I just interject something quick as well?
If you like.
It is now, just a bit unrelated as well, it is now 2 hours exactly.
Oh, how did we know we'd
until
talk
the
about this?
eclipse.
Yeah, and that will be on next after my show. Stay tuned.
Michael will be here.
I was just saying, it is literally 2 hours from now.
Yes, Michael, whilst you're here, so I want to get your view here on Cyclone Winston, just to try and, get some view. Do you think Cyclone Winston was an annular cyclone?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Pretty damn confident.
Well, actually, as well, Craig, what I would say about Winston as well is that it's up there, really, with...
Yeah, it's right up there. Also,
it's on par, I'd say it's on par with storms like Katrina, Haiyan, Patricia. It's on par. It might not have been more as intense, but it's caused a heck of a lot of damage. I'd even put it on par with Cyclone Nargis as well, maybe.
But the thing is, though, Michael, also just to point out, Winston has definitely made their history books, not just South Pacific, but worldwide, becoming the second strongest tropical cyclone ever to make landfall. You can't really say that's been some time coming, because it has actually been coming, but maybe we didn't expect it in this short a period in time. But here's the question: have we hit a period in which we should never have hit? And that's superstorms. Because Winston also did this. He achieved Cat 3 intensity 3 times.
Just to ask as well, is there anyone staying around for the eclipse as well?
I don't know.
I'm sure they are.
But anyway, but that was Winston, and I also just to come out. But Winston, obviously, I've done recently was raise money for Fiji, and I managed to successfully raise £57.20 to send off to Fiji for their help, which I'm quite chuffed to do because I don't like sitting by and watching them, suffering in such a way. I don't like that. I've been praised for it at school, so there you go. so I've done something proper. But also, that was Winston. There was Cyclone Winston. Also, just to cover now, we're going to go to the one where we think Patricia was overkill. Now, where do we start with that? Now, who wants to start off with Patricia?
Me. That's my favorite.
Me. I volunteer as tribute.
Me.
I'll shoot it first.
Take my
I
love.
volunteered. I volunteered as tribute. Okay.
Carl went first.
Patricia.
Carl shouted.
Patricia.
Hold your horses. Hold your horses, Michael. Carl shouted first. Yes, refrain yourself.
Me.
Go ahead, Carl.
Hurricane Patricia will go down as the strongest cyclone ever to be covered by Force 13 and one of the fastest intensification ever, with a massive air pressure of 872 millibars and a very arguable wind speed of 215
and a very
miles an
arguable air pressure as well, because what we think was shouldn't have been upgraded. We should have said, leave it alone, don't touch it. But no, the National Hurricane Centers had to go, oh, should we make it bigger? Should we put it down? Nah, let's make it bigger.
No, that's not the problem I have with it. The problem I have with the National Hurricane Center's upgrade is it's not based on any evidence. That you could argue that the storm did reach a peak air pressure of 870 millibars, but we have no evidence supporting that. But it might have done that. But if the National Hurricane Center is going to be a responsible scientific body, they must rely on the evidence, and that is not
do something stupid. Not do something stupid by saying the satellite presentation as they left the hurricane. There's a picture on David's screen share of the mighty Hurricane Patricia. Just I think at peak as well.
I don't ever doubt that Patricia was a very intense storm.
Yes, Michael.
I would say actually with Patricia, I would say that it is one of the. I think it has taken the record from Typhoon Forest.
I'd say it has done.
Because I believe it went from I think 983 down to 872 in just under 24 hours.
It went from a 65 mile per hour, 55 or whatever it was. I think it was 65 mile per hour tropical storm, all the way up to 200 miles per hour monster or 215 mile an hour monster within a 24-hour period of time. That has to be the quickest intensification the world ever recorded. But yet, no.
As reiterated before as well, the current records, the current big records held by storms and things, held by tropical cyclones. The most intense lowest central air pressure goes to tip of 870, which we do think Patricia could have beaten out as well.
But the bad thing is, though, Michael, we don't have any evidence supporting that, if it did. Because just because the National Hurricane Center said, oh, satellite presentation just got better, doesn't mean it got stronger. Doesn't mean that. I don't know where they got that idea from, saying it was 250 miles an hour and 872.
Also as well, hang on, Craig.
What excites me more than any other storm right now is Typhoon Nora of 1973.
Oh, bloody Nora.
Which had a measured pressure of 877 millibars recorded by Recon. But Recon weren't even in the centre of the storm when they recorded 877. So not only is there the time gap opposite sides that the NHC have extrapolated to put 872 for Patricia, but it's also not even at the centre of the storm that they recorded that, so there is grounds to reduce that a little bit, but speculation that Nora could have been even stronger still.
Exactly, because if you're recording
NHC
that,
have been reacting on speculation with Patricia.
Yes, but the bad thing is their Atlantic postseason analysis, which we're just going to have a quick glance over, was an absolute nightmare.
Really?
And that's Yes, and that, well, wait, it's worse than a nightmare. It was a botch job. What were you thinking?
Well, one thing saved them there. They didn't upgrade Joaquin.
Yes, thank God for that. And let's quickly move away from that because that postseason analysis was an absolute shambles. In fact, it was worse. If you wanna have a look at that, well, please do be prepared to have a bowl of whiskey or something, whatever is beside you, to get drunk.
That's for debate 13, I think.
Yes, because wait, there's no real debate about it because of what happened.
I'm sure someone has the opinion that Danny was 125 miles an hour. That Henri was whatever they said it was, rather than
50.
What it was supposed to be. One of the most pathetic storms in existence. It's just ridiculous.
Apparently it was a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm, and I can tell you for damn certain, it certainly wasn't. That was barely reaching 45 miles an hour.
Well,
you would have been lucky if it was reaching there.
Patricia was a hurricane that was on steroids, nevertheless.
Oh yeah. Basically, it's as if
Hey, it doesn't matter what I or Craig think about Patricia. I mean, I think we're both agreed that we can't say it was any higher than 878, which is what Recon recorded. That is obviously true. I mean, it could be lower, but there's no evidence supporting that. It's just what the NHC extrapolated because it deepened 7 millibars in 45 minutes. They assumed it deepened another 7 millibars in another 45 minutes, which is doesn't tally at all.
And plus the fact, Patricia, believe it or not, was my first Category 5 hurricane.
Actually, guys, we've got news. And actually, no, it's Pam, Craig.
What?
It was Pam. Wasn't it? Your first Cat 5?
No, Banshee was my first Cat 5.
Oh, actually, you said hurricane. You said hurricane. Sorry.
Hey, we should put that on
those are not hurricanes. They're cyclones,
here's the news. Here's some news, actually. Guys. Here's some news, actually. You remember? I think it was Tropical Storm Vermeil has the closest proximity to the equator.
Yes.
That has actually changed. It has now been deemed that it was Cyclone Agni in the North Indian Ocean on November 28th, 2004.
I think that's always been the case, though. Vermeil was certainly the furthest south typhoon, at least on JTWC's reckoning, though JMA weren't convinced it was a typhoon.
It had it listed on the tropical cyclones before that. It was Tropical Storm Vermeil.
No. Well, that's always been wrong, I think.
Yeah, and also, so continuing with the records, so most intense air pressure we said was Typhoon Tip. Most intense 1 minute sustained surface winds, well, you can guess who that is. Patricia, 215. 185 knots if you work in
love for Nancy.
Money.
No love for Nancy.
Come on, give Nancy some glory.
I think it was Nancy before Haiyan and
Hang on a minute, right. Just before we get any further,
and then
let's pay tribute to Typhoon Nancy here.
Nancy was 215 and lasted so long as a Cat 5 hurricane.
Right, here we go. Here we are.
Typhoon, rather.
Right. Patricia cleaned the floor with Nancy and air pressure, but she did not clean the floor with her and wind speed. They were joint. 215 miles an hour, 882 millibars for
Both
Nancy.
Estimates.
Yes, but the thing is that we can believe is that Patricia was a 200 mile an hour Category 5 and 879 millibars or 878.
Do you guys, just a quick question as well, do you guys think that Patricia is beating out this record, fastest intensification in central pressure, which was 100 millibars from, this is the current record, 100 millibars from 976 to 876 in under 24 hours, which was set by Typhoon Forest on September 22nd and 23rd, 1983.
Well, to be honest, I think it was. Especially if she flew.
My reanalysis actually put Forest at a higher pressure than that.
But there you go then. Patricia has the record according to 413. There you go.
I remember what I put it up to.
But here, I'm
actually,
just going to read this out. I'm just
Here's
going to
some
read this out.
news.
I'm just going to read this out, Michael. This is from, well, what the supposed great old Wikipedia want us to believe scenario stories on what happened. They've got it here saying that on October, well, I'm just going to skip quite a bit of it here. On October 22nd, a well-defined eye developed with an intense central dense overcast. And Patricia grew, that's an understatement, from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane in just 24 hours. A near record pace. I'd say the grew from tropical storm to Category 5. Wiki, just a couple of things. That's an understatement.
More like exploded into.
Yep. Or just propelled, exploded, you name it.
Anything on the animation after all.
Oh, ha.
Yeah. Also said as well. The other records held by storms, most intense 10-minute sustained winds of 160 miles per hour, which set by Typhoon Tip on October 12th, 1979. And then we also had fastest intensification by the 1 minute sustained surface winds, which was Patricia which gained 120 miles an hour from 85 to 205 in under 24 hours.
Michael, did you just say Tip was 160 miles an hour?
That was on 10 minutes sustained.
Thank you, because I was getting worried there.
It's yes. 10 minute sustained winds.
Just for those that don't understand what 10 minute sustained winds are, that's just basically 9 minutes off of what your actual proper sustained winds are. The sustained winds by 1 minute, which is your actual true sustained winds, is 190 miles an hour. So that's quite a strong Category 5 typhoon or hurricane. On the air pressure, 870 millibars, as Michael pointed out. Quite a long-lived typhoon. And then, obviously, as she weakened, she then became a absolute monster.
Yeah,
becoming
my reanalysis of Tip, by the way, put it up to 195.
There you go. When she was weakening, is this true, Nathan? When she was weakening, Patricia, Tip became the biggest, the baddest tropical cyclone.
About 2 or 3 days after its peak, it reached its maximum coverage of, what was it, over 1,200 miles or something like that.
Well, there's a picture on Wikipedia. I'll actually try and screen share this of Super Typhoon Tip compared to little.
Tracy, sorry.
Oh, it's Tracy. Oh, hello, Tip. I couldn't see Tracy there because you're in the road. Yes. According to Tip, she made Tracy look like a little blob. Look like that wind cyclone or whatever you call them. Late vortex. I don't know what you call them really. Made Tracy look like that. But this typhoons and hurricanes and all that can get to that size. It's true. And Patricia, we all thought the storms from the past, like Nancy and all that, weren't true. But now that Patricia's happened, this really validates that. Hang on a minute, these storms now are definitely true because, well, if it's happened before, it's happened now.
Question is, how many of them?
Exactly, how many of them have done it?
And how many storms have we missed as well?
Exactly. Go ahead, Carl.
Craig.
Carl was shouting first.
Yeah. Patricia is now on the front line of the highest wind speed ever recorded in a tropical cyclone, going hand in hand with Nancy. So, how many times have you seen that? Only 2.
You wouldn't have seen that, really. You wouldn't have seen that. Right, go ahead, Michael.
Just to ask as well, Craig, could I read out the rest of the records set by storms?
If you wish.
It's not that long. There's only probably about another 10 records that I can just quickly skim through and summarize. So next up, I've done fastest intensification, done that. Highest wind gust. Believe it or not, this one actually came from a Category 4, not a Category 5. Which is Cyclone Olivia of 1996 on Barrow Island, Western Australia. Set a highest wind gust ever recorded in a tropical cyclone at 253 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And also the highest storm surge recorded was Cyclone Haiyan in 1899 in Bathurst Bay, Queensland, Australia, with a highest storm surge of 14.5 meters. 14.5 meters.
You're still astronomy hour, Michael.
I'm tired. Okay, but I'm going to be really smashed tomorrow after the eclipse. 48. If you're working on money, 48 feet. Highest overall rainfall was Cyclone Hyacinth on Reunion Island from January 14th to 28th, 1980, which dumped 6,083 millimeters of rain, or 239.5 inches.
That is impressive.
Largest tropical cyclone diameter. Well, you all know who this one is.
Yeah.
Gale winds 39 miles per hour, extending 2.22 kilometer.
Slow down.
2,220 kilometers, or 1,380 miles from the center, goes to Typhoon Tip.
Incredible.
And then the smallest tropical cyclone from winds from the center only extended 18.5 kilometers, or 11.5 miles from the center, which is Tropical Storm Marco in the Bay of Campi, I think that is. Largest eye was 370 kilometers, or 230 miles, on August 20th, 1960, set by Typhoon Carmen in the northwest Pacific Ocean.
They had a radar image of that as well.
Who has a picture of Typhoon Carmen?
The smallest eye as well, 3.7 kilometers, or 2.3 miles. Was set on October 19th, 2005 by Hurricane Wilma in the Caribbean Sea. The warmest eye as well, 32.2 degrees Celsius, or 90 degrees Fahrenheit, at 758 HPA height, was set on October 23rd, 2015 with Hurricane Patricia. And then the longest lasting tropical cyclone, where we all know who that is.
Yes.
Which is Typhoon John, Hurricane/Typhoon John, from August to September 10th, 1994.
Computer breaker.
Yep.
And Typhoon Nancy, probably the longest lasting Cat 5.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's also in the records as well. Longest lasting Category 5 winds was Nancy with 5.50 days from September 9th to September 14th, 1961. Longest distance travelled by a tropical cyclone, again, is Typhoon/Hurricane John, which is the same dates there.
I'd say that's going to be close now. I'd say that's going to be very, very tight between him and Winston.
We're now in the last four, which is the costliest.
Look how big the East Pacific is compared to the Southeast Pacific.
No
I know it loops around, but
doesn't matter.
Nothing compared to John.
The last few here, guys. The costliest cyclone was Hurricane Katrina, August 29th, 2005, causing $108 billion of damage. And also the deadliest tropical cyclone was circa 500,000 deaths plus, which was the 1970 Bahola cyclone in the Bay of Bengal, November 12th, 1970.
Yeah, which then became the deadliest year ever in the tropical areas.
And we'll just take this few minutes, Michael. Hang on a minute. Hold your horses.
I've got two more.
Oh, hurry up then.
Okay, the closest proximity to the equator, which we touched on earlier, was set on November 28, 2004, Cyclone Agni in the northern Indian Ocean. And finally, the heaviest natural object moved was 177 short tons. I'll see if you guys can guess this storm by the date, November 8th, 2013.
Yeah.
It's
a huge
pressure in
ship.
Haiyan. It's Haiyan on Samar in the Philippines.
So, Michael, who's doing your show tonight?
Is it me?
Yeah, do you want to swap?
Yes. No, it's you're
So it's
still in
not
my
Craig.
limelight here. Thank you, Adam. Thank you. Well, just to take up the last 19 minutes here, we'll have questions if the viewers have got any. If
sorry.
not, they're falling asleep.
Actually,
No,
Craig.
There aren't really any direct questions, just comments about
Michael.
Patricia there.
Whoa, steady, David.
I'm just saying. Do you want to go into my show a little bit? Because the eclipse doesn't start till 11:15, so you can go probably about half an hour into my show if you want to.
Might hog a bit of that then. Get me on back.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
But anyway, we'll have an open discussion.
Well,
See if what's
didn't you want to
active.
talk? There were several other storms on your list, weren't there?
Well, we might discover them. Well, talk about them either next week if we have time. We might just do one more. We'll do. I don't know which ones have we not done here. Like we've done Haiyan, we've done Pam, we've done Patricia, we've done Winston, we've done Ivan. Right, we have a vote here. Alan, Paloma, or Andrew and Coleman. Which one?
Paloma?
Okay, we have one for Paloma. David?
Sorry, fill me in.
Which tropical cyclone would you like to do next? We've got Andrew, Tropical Storm Coleman of last year, North Indian, or Alan and Paloma, and also Wilma.
Yes.
Let's not forget that.
Yassi.
Yossi. Now there's a good one. That's one for Yossi. Out of the blue. You know what? I think we'll do I think we'll give a tropical storm a mention here, if that's okay, David.
It's your time, my friend.
We'll do Yossi next week. Now that's going to be priority next week, and I think that's the sound of the clapping Marcel Holos.
Oh
my God.
Welcome aboard.
Hola, Marcel. ¿Qué pasa?
Hello.
¿Qué pasa?
Marcel, I have one question. What do you actually have to say about Tropical Storm Coleman? Because I'm going to give a tropical storm a mention here. Yes, it was North Indian.
Actually, just hold up there. I just want to ask Marcel's opinion about Patricia first.
Okay, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Marcel.
That was a very impressive storm.
Not off.
Oh.
Is that it? Well, that's it.
Oh my God.
Moving
Oh
on.
my God. Oh my God. Oh
That's
my
it,
God.
I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. That's it, I'm afraid. That's it. Let's time to wrap it up there. That's it. That's all Marcel's got to say.
What about
just
Coleman
now.
then, Marcel? Do you remember that?
Right. Of last year, you can't have forgot it, or couldn't have forgot it,
Well,
because it was the deadliest storm.
I don't know. It's Marcel.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I am here.
Yes.
Yes, but do you remember Tropical Storm Coleman of last year? And if so, right, what was it? Why? How have you remembered it? What did it do apart from make landfall? Sort of.
What do you remember?
Right, I'm gonna remind
That
you.
is
Tropical Storm Coleman. Right, I'm gonna remind you here, Marcel.
that
Tropical
storm was in Bangladesh.
Yes, it did hit Bangladesh.
Yes.
Tropical Storm Coleman was the deadliest storm of last year. Believe it or not.
It's
Of all
amazing, isn't it?
storms, it had to be a tropical storm. But still, tropical storms are pretty darn dangerous. Tropical Storm Coleman, which we were lucky to see Coleman. I think she just got named just at landfall. Just. Coleman killed 170 people in Bangladesh, and I think in the surrounding areas, or it was just Bangladesh. I think it was just Bangladesh. I'm not too sure about that. But of all the storms, whether it was a Cat 5, nah. Coleman came along and said, nah. I'll make tropical storms the deadliest. Also, Coleman delivering very heavy rain to the Bangladesh area. I think there was an area I think it was India or something. There's an area there that was in drought, and they aren't in drought anymore. Well, they weren't in drought anymore. But Marcel, I don't know what really drew your attention to Coleman. And
Coleman was a very dead storm because he's shown that much time. He's stranded long time in Bangladesh.
He did it. What Coleman really did there, just to expand on what Marcel said there, is that Coleman sat there for at least 3 days, did a walking over the Bahamas, but this one wasn't a Cat 4. This was a tropical storm with winds nearly 5 miles an hour, sitting there. And also, just to point out here, that Coleman wasn't exactly a small storm. For taking up the entire Bay of Bengal storm. That is very, very impressive.
Hey, Craig.
Yes, Michael, as long as you're not going to invade my...
I was quickly wondering, could I make a suggestion for a storm to do next? Which could be a good one to look at.
Do it next week, because Coleman will be our last one.
Okay. As you know, you still got about another half an hour afterwards.
What are you thinking of, Michael?
Cesar Douglas.
No. Definitely next week. Hopefully Cesar will be there to see it.
Yeah.
Douglas Paddle Games.
Craig, would you like the extra half an hour?
Well, just to invade your show and talk about astronomy for about half.
Hey, well,
about
officially, it's Michael's show beginning at the top of the next hour, but we can talk about whatever we like at the start of it, I'm sure. It's Michael's show, it's up to him, and I'm sure he'll allow for it. We'll just have general chit-chat, I suppose.
Well, it's just the offer's there for Craig if he wants to just go into...
Yeah, I'm sure that will happen naturally, Michael. We've got 12 minutes left of this show, Craig. There is time for another storm if you do want to talk about another storm. Or
if we're really desperate here,
Mitch.
Well, we have a nickname for Mitch, and we're not going to say it.
No, don't
right?
go there.
Is this something that rhymes with Mitch?
No.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And it surely did some stuff in Central America. That's for sure.
No.
Mitch and Rick.
And the awkward meter goes up another notch. Ding, 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 ding.
I have just face palmed at that. I've just face palmed at that. I'm sorry. And that reaction from dull groans. Oh God. I think we should do the storm that is basically getting forgotten. Hurricane Allen.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hurricane.
I'm sure Devin would like to have spoken about that one actually.
Devin, if you're watching, I'm sorry, mate, but you'll be.
Who's Hurricane Allen?
What?
Yeah.
I've never heard of Hurricane Allen.
Oh goodness.
Seriously?
I'm ahead of the wall. Hurricane Allen.
Michael, how long have you been here?
Hey,
You don't know about Hurricane Allen.
I've never heard of Hurricane Allen. Was it a 5?
Yes. Well, you've obviously heard of it and got the strength right.
Hurricane Allen.
I've never heard of Allen.
What the heck?
Oh, I know
Allen was.
What the heck? That's like someone saying that they've never heard of Hurricane Katrina.
Sorry, Adam, but Michael.
Sorry.
It proves that Michael hasn't watched Hurricane Week either, because it was number 44.
You know?
Right, that's a blooper.
I always watch the top 10, Nathan.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
Nathan,
Probably everyone else too.
Nathan, that's my show. Had 2 bloopers in one go.
Hey.
Oh yeah, this is going on the 2016 blooper reel.
Yeah, I had a big one. Earlier on. What was it? I got 2004 mixed up with 2007 in the Atlantic. 2007 had 2 Cat 5s, and I thought 2004 had 2 Cat 5s. I said that Dean was 2004 Atlantic storm. It wasn't that 7. At least I realised I made the mistake, though. At least I owned up to it and told Nathan to put it on.
You might have a message. I don't know, Nathan.
I'm just showing an image of Hurricane Alan right now near its peak in the Yucatan Channel.
Wind speeds at peak 90 miles an hour. Hold yourself, Michael. Restrain.
It's just Dave has asked if we can go to a break.
Has he?
Yes.
Oh. Well, we're going to be going to a break very soon, actually. So.
Yes, but very quickly, Hurricane Alan, wind speeds 190 miles an hour and an air pressure 899 millibars. From the satellite imagery, an absolute beauty. Absolute beauty.
It certainly is.
But then again, it certainly resembles a little bit of Andrew about it due to his size.
You think?
I don't know.
I wouldn't say it's Andrew.
No, I'm not saying
reminds me of something, but maybe a cross between Andrew and Katrina. I don't know.
Maybe. The size from Andrew. Maybe the size from Andrew. That's the bit I'm saying that reminds me of Andrew's, the size.
It's a bit bigger than Andrew, at least on the image I'm showing, anyway. You might think of a different part in its life. It had quite a long life, and a lot of things happened to it during that, didn't it?
Oh yeah, ups and downs, you know.
Alan surely did it is one of those storms that definitely wrecked Cayman, though. I can tell you that.
And definitely another storm in the Atlantic. This number is starting to become a coincidence here. Alan achieved Cat 5 3 times. This number 3 is becoming an absolute. Alan, you've achieved category.
You don't know.
Hurricane Alan, I am going to explode on this show. You know what? I give up with this show in a minute.
Don't give up because of Michael.
Please, not on Michael's account.
We have not gone quietly and we haven't gone quietly and unnoticed into the gutter. We have gone as loud as we like and as noticeable into the gutter because of Michael.
Nah.
And also because of my blooper as well. That's where it went pear-shaped. But also Hurricane Alan, going back to him, he achieved Category 5 3 times and affected a certain Force 13 member. Well.
Oh my god.
I don't suppose... That's probably before Adam's time down there. I don't think you were in the Caymans back then, were you?
No, just came a little bit after that.
But you've spoken to people who were, haven't you?
Yes, I have. It was bad, but definitely Hurricane Ivan would be number 1 on the list for Cayman. But Alan
is that just
was
because it's more recent, or it actually was worse?
No, it was legitimately the worst. Alan is like within the. I think they said they had him as within the top 5, but Ivan trumps all of them and takes the first place. And
here's the thing.
I could certainly attest to that.
But here's the thing, though. The main point of this objective of Cyclone History is that never underestimate how strong a tropical storm can be, or any sort of strength, whether it's a hurricane or even a depression. There's been tropical depressions which have, killed thousands, and even possibly even caused humanitarian aid. It doesn't need to be a Cat 5. It doesn't need to be a Category 4 or any sort of major. It could just be something as simple as even, I don't know, maybe a tropical wave. And don't start waving, Nathan.
With back in 2008 with the D name storm. What was it called again?
When?
2008.
2008. Was that 2008? 2008. Oh, he named that.
I think it was.
I know what you're on about. I know that name is.
Yeah, it was. But it formed just
It was Edward.
no, it was the D one.
D name.
Dolly.
Yeah.
D.
D.
Oh, it's Dolly.
It before it actually became a storm. The tropical wave that formed it caused quite a bit of damage in Jamaica and Cayman. It did form, was it just west of Grand Cayman, but it did give Cayman tropical storm force winds, rough seas, and good amount of rain that it actually caused flooding in some areas that even some people had to evacuate. And it wasn't even a fully designated tropical storm yet. So.
So there you go. Basically, what the point of this show technically is not just to look back at like storms of tip and all that, but it's also to raise awareness. That's why I put Tropical Storm Coleman in this show as well, is to show you that tropical storms of any strength, tropical cyclones, as implying on all that, are dangerous. It doesn't matter whether it's weaker than a tropical storm or even a hurricane. It doesn't even need to be a hurricane. It doesn't need to be named. They are all dangerous. It doesn't matter whether it's a depression. It doesn't need to be the wind. It needs to be it could be the rain or the storm surge that it brings with it. But at the end of the day, we all have to face the facts. All storms, tropical cyclones, are dangerous. Whether they be small, whether they be giant like Tip, or tiny like Danny. No! I was keeping it clean.
Well, that appears to be Craig's final words on the matter.
But guys, Craig, you set me up beautifully for that.
Well, I did not. That was uncalled for.
We better get going to a break. We'll be back
Yes.
with more. Well, that's the end of Craig's show. Craig, any last words?
Yes. Well, what I was saying there was basically my last words.
It did
last
sound like
form
it.
of speech.
Sound like quite a conclusion. All right, well,
quite a conclusion.
we'll be back with Michael in just a few moments' time. Stay tuned.
Yes.